Ninjani, Molweni, Afshini, Towelanda. I'm Temsom Nyai, and today we are going on with starting with the law of a delict, and we'll be giving some overview. I heard that you are going to write on the 10th or 14th. I'm not remembering correctly. And if you can watch these videos, you will go into the examination with all the knowledge that you need in order for you to pass. My main aim is to see you passing. So firstly, we'll not discuss the delictual remedies. We'll discuss the delictual remedies in another day. Today we are starting with the conduct, with the elements of a delict. So for you to successfully claim the delict, the delictual, you must know that all the elements of a delict must be present. Number one, we have a conduct, we have a wrongfulness, we have a causal, we have a faulty, we have a damage. Those are the elements of a delict. Number one, we start with the conduct. The conduct, whenever there is an accident and you are claiming for delictual claim, maybe somebody skipped the robot and collide with your car, you have to claim for delictual. You have to claim delictual. And then when you are claiming for the damage, for delictual damage, when you claim for delictual damage, they check the conduct. The first thing is that who caused the accident. So that person that caused the accident, does he have the capacity? Because in the conduct they made it clear that only natural person and the juristic person can act. So it means that a dog and the wild animals cannot act. So if your car is driven by a dog, they will check the owner of the dog, and the act will be imposed on the owner of the dog, because the wild animals cannot act. Okay, so only juristic and natural person are part of the acting. So number one is that when the act is positive, when you have acted wrongfulness, you can actually have a defense of automatism. The defense of automatism is that I acted that way. Maybe you were driving, then you skipped the robot, you collided with another car. When you were driving, you suffered from heart attack, you suffered from stroke, you are unable to control your movements, then you collide with another car. That's the defense that you can raise on the conduct. Then when we talk about omission is when you have a legal duty. For example, police officer has a legal duty to arrest. Then if the police officer is in the mall off duty, then there's a criminal and committing a crime, then he doesn't arrest such a person. He will be liable for omission, because he has a legal duty as a police officer to arrest. Whether he's on duty or off duty, it's his legal duty. So it's number one. When you work in the NPA, when you are prosecutor, whether you are when you are off duty or in duty, it doesn't matter. It's your duty to ensure that the criminals are prosecuted. So when you see that there's a criminal that is taking place, it's your duty to take videos and all the stuff and evidence, so that you can able to present in court. You don't say, no, I was not working, that's why I didn't entertain such a thing. No, it's an omission. So you can be liable for omission. So I told you about the defense of automatism, and then we're likely to go and have one question here, so that we see if you could answer the question. Then the question says, Tumi is an epilepsy sufferer. He neglects to take his prescription medicine and decides to drive to the local mall to do some shopping. On his way, he suffers an epileptic seizure. He loses control of his car and smashes into a corner shop, causing considerable damage to the building and merchandise. The shop owner institutes a delictual action against Tumi. Which of the following statements is correct? So the shop owner instituted a delictual action against Tumi for his action of neglecting to take a prescription medicine and drive to a local mall and then smashes into a corner of the shop. So now he has to pay for smashing the corner of the shop. Then they said which of the following statement is correct. Number one, Tumi can escape liability based on automatism. Number two, Tumi cannot Let me put it here. Toomey cannot rely on automatism because the defense actio libera in causa applies. Number 3, Toomey cannot rely on automatism because he negligently placed himself in a situation where his movements were mechanical. Toomey can escape liability by proving that his bodily movements were not voluntary at the time when the damage was caused. So one of the things that you must know about the damage is that we check the negligence and we check the intent. You will understand when we go to faulty. Faulty is made up of intent and negligence. So this guy has neglect to take his prescription. Therefore, when you neglect to take your prescription, it means that when he was driving, there was a chances that he can suffer from epileptic seizure. He knows about his disease and he decided not to take the medication. Therefore, the rely on the automatism doesn't apply. You cannot say that I'm relying on the automatism. You cannot come and rely on the automatism. Why? Because you are the one who put yourself in that situation. So the defense is no longer available for the guy. So if he took the prescribed medicine, then he suffered from epileptic, he would have rely on automatism. But now, because he neglected to take his prescribed medicine that he has, he cannot rely on the automatism. So that is the correct answer, that he cannot rely on the automatism, this guy. He cannot escape the liability based on what? On the automatism, because he put himself in that situation. So when we try to answer the question, we will say that Toomey cannot rely on automatism because the defense actio libera in causa applies. So this defense of actio libera in causa means that the person knew about the disease and he neglected to take whatever is prescribed so that he can harm others. So he intentionally or he negligently causes the accident. So he has intention or to harm the shop, because if he has no intention, he would have taken his medication. So number 2 is the correct answer. Toomey cannot rely on automatism because the defense actio libera in causa applies. He decided to harm other people. So let's proceed now. Now let's talk about the wrongfulness, which is the second element of a delict. A wrongfulness is based on the community boni mors. Community boni mors is what the community considers as a community morality. You know, in the community there is a morality, and another thing, there is what we call the legal duty. The legal duty is when let me give this example by legal duty. It is the legal duty of municipality to keep the robots on and to ensure that all sewage pipes are in order and they are safe from the danger. So if there is an open of a sewage pipe and then they fail to close such a sewage pipe, they can be held accountable. For example, in Soweto, I forgot that township where the child fell on the sewage pipe. The municipality was held liable for such a negligence. So it's very much important that when you have a legal duty to act and you fail to act, then you can be held liable for such a failure to act on that particular course. Then that's when we talk about the wrongfulness. We are still going to go much harder on the wrongfulness, and we are still going to tackle many questions about wrongfulness. And you are going to understand, even when you go to examination, you can even write without a book. Okay, so let's check one question of the wrongfulness and try to check if we can answer the question. Okay, here we have a question, and let's tackle this question and see if we can answer. And let's start. The Cape Town Metro has neglected to keep a popular seaside promenade in a good condition. Due to weathering, the surface of the promenade has become uneven. During a pre-dawn run, Tabo trips and falls when running over crumbling paving on the promenade. He breaks his right arm and his face hits a bench. He is treated in hospital and his arm heals eventually, but his face remains prominently disfigured. He does not belong to a medical aid scheme and is therefore personally liable for the hospital cost. He is also unable to work for some time and suffers a temporary loss of income. Then we go to the questions so that we can able to answer some of the questions about the wrongfulness. So I won't be entertaining the one for the remedies because this question is based on the remedies and we have not talked about the remedies. So we'll go to number 2. If Tabo institutes a delictual claim against the Metro, the question whether the Metro's conduct was wrongful will, according to the traditional approach to wrongfulness, be answered with reference to the following. Number 1, infringement, breach of legal duty, reasonableness, reasonable person test. Okay, let's read number 3 so that we answer these two questions very fast. They said if Tabo institutes a delictual claim against the Metro, the question whether the Metro's conduct was wrongful will, according to the new approach to the wrongful that has been often followed since the judgment in telemetrics. So it means that now we have two questions, number 2 and number 3, that are talking about the approaches. We have a traditional approach in number 2 and we have a new approach in number 3. So it means that if you fail to get number 2, you have failed to get number 3, which is very interesting, this one. So let's deal with this question. However, we have not dealt much with the content of the wrongfulness because I was just giving an overview. However, I'll try to answer this question. I know that you may not understanding, and I know that you don't have a document because you only read prescribed book, whereas you must read as many as you can. Okay, so let's try to answer this question so that you can understand this one. So according to this document, you must know that I've already said it and I'm repeating. I only give documents to the people that are part of my my study group or people that I teach every day on the Microsoft team. And I told you that if you want to be part of it, you can pay 800 to 1,000 rand based on the modules that will be given. Number 1 is that we have the document stated very clear that much has been written about the new test or a new variation of the test for wrongfulness in determining intellectual liability in South Africa. Oh, there is. And then they even give the prescribed book of Nathan and Portuguese, this one, the pages. This is one, it's going to be nice. And it says that the new test, new variation test, recent approach. It's all probability derived from English, tort, law, and more especially from the test applied in determining duty care with regard to the tort of negligence. The South African courts, in applying this recent approach, are in fact drawing closer to adoption English law and the tort of negligence. In this note, the recent approach, the test applied to determining wrongfulness before this recent approach, referred to as a traditional approach. From here, and fundamental similarities, difference between the South African law of Delict and English tort law we referred to briefly. The English test for determining a duty of care is discussed and compared with the recent approach to determine wrongfulness in South Africa, and the conclusion will follow. So it's a nice document which will be knowing about the new test of South Africa and then the traditional test. They say that the traditional approach to determine wrongfulness emanates from the decision of Minister Van Persie versus Els, where it was held that in order for conduct to be deemed wrongful, the harm suffered must be caused in legal, reprehensible, or unreasonable manner, contra bonus mors, in light of all surrounding circumstances. And then there is some cases there. In determining wrongfulness, the basic question is whether a legal recognized interest was infringed, and if so, whether it was infringed in a legal, reprehensible, or unreasonable manner. Okay, let's go down. Then they said the criteria used to determine whether legal recognized interest was infringed in legal, reprehensible, or unreasonable manner is the Bonnie Moore's yardstick. I love this one, Bonnie Moore's yardstick. Bonnie Moore's yardstick. And then the principle of Delict they give. The Bonnie Moore's yardstick is an objective test based on the criterion of reasonableness of the court have an obligation to develop a Bonnie Moore's in order to ensure that it is in line with the spirit, purport, and object of the Bill of Rights. The Bonnie Moore's is thus a flexible, open-minded, juridical yardstick that gives expression to the evolving convictions of the South African community, allowing the courts to continuously adapt the law and provide value judgments. And then there is some cases. The court may be faced with two or more competing interests which the plaintiff and defendant rely on and which require protection of the law. And then we can see. In a practical, wrongfulness can be determined more precisely by making use of either of the two well-known practical implications of the basic test for wrongfulness. That is, by either establishing whether there was infringement of a right or a breach of a legal duty to prevent harm. In this sense, the Bonnie Moore's test is seen as a supplementary test and is used in three types of scenario. And then they given those three types of scenario where those Bonnie Moore's will be applied. And then we go to the recent approach. They said that the recent approach stemming from the telemetrics, the one that we're talking about, right, is that the wrongfulness is present when, according to policy consideration or public policy, it will be reasonable to hold a person liable, or that the wrongfulness turns on the reasonableness of imposing liability for conduct that has been shown or is assumed to be negligent. And they gave the case, the book of the one that we are reading, the one that we are reading, the prescribed book of you. To the recent approach, to my mind, as far as can be ascertained, began with the views of Du Bois, was adapted by, and they give the cases and the more cases and the more cases. This recent approach was severely and justifiable criticized for inter alia attaining superiority as the central element in determining delictual liability, causing confliction between the elements of wrongfulness, negligence, and legal causation. And then now we know, okay, we have read, we can go and read and read and read, and then we come back to the question. Now, the question said that whether Thabo can institute a traditional approach or Thabo can institute a new approach based on the telemetrics. We have read the telemetrics case now. We understand what is the answer. And we have read about the traditional approach, and now we understand what is the answer. So, by the way that we have read, you can actually give the answer. This one, I won't give you the answer because the answers will clearly articulated on that document. So, we'll just go on. If you want an answer, you can actually comment on down on the video, then I'll give answers. If you are failing to get answers, because we have already read, we read just now and we have found the answers. Don't worry if you don't get the answer. If you have not got the answer when we read that document, you must not worry. We are still going to tackle many stuff here. So let's come to the defenses of a wrongfulness. I told you that this is just an overview of a delict. Then we have a private defense, we have a necessity, we have a provocation, we have a consent. Those are the ground of justification. And then number one, private defense. If you do not understand about private defense, you must go and read CRW 2601. Necessity, you go and read CRW 2601. Provocation, you go and read 2601. And then consent, you still go and read 2601. So if you have not understood about those kind of justification, you go and read. Then we have another one, which is the statutory authority, official capacity, execution of an official command, and power to display. Then all those one we are going to deal with them. So let's try to answer some questions that we may find based on the private, provocation, and necessity. I told you, private defense is when you are defending yourself from imminent danger. It means that when there is no imminent danger, it's not a private defense. If someone pointed out a gun at the bar, and then you fail to take action when he pointed out the gun, then later on you go to that person's house and you kill that person. That is a revenge. It's not a private defense. You cannot rely on private defense. However, if someone pointed you with a gun, then you take out your gun and shoot that person. It's a private defense. Necessity is when you use something like a dog or any of your puppets as an instrument to attack. So if, for example, I'm walking on the street, your dog came out and charged on me, and then I kill your dog, I have to rely on a necessity. It's your job to keep the dog inside. Or for example, if I'm on the bus Patco, Rea Vaya, let's give by Rea Vaya. I'm on the Rea Vaya, we are going to town, then Rea Vaya started to catch a fire, then I broke the window in order to get out. I rely on the necessity, right? Because there was imminent danger and I have to act by breaking somebody's thing in order to protect myself. That is a necessity. So it means that I broke the rear via window in order to escape the danger that was imminent, the fire, right? So that one is a necessity. So you can rely on a necessity. Even if you were chased by criminals, then you jump on someone's house, then you pass or you break the window in order to get inside the house so that you can protect yourself. You have to rely on the necessity. However, kasi is a kasi. The rules are not all rules applied, so they will even force you to pay. Kasi is kasi. Then provocation is when somebody provoked you in a way that it is reasonable to attack the person. So the person cannot just come to you and say, hey, useless, and then you attack that person and you rely on provocation. No. The provocation must be reasonable in a way that you can injure that person as a result of that provocation. So let's go and check some of the questions that we can deal with. Here I've already answered. And then let's go down to the questions that we're dealing with in order for us to understand. Questions of private defenses, and let's see if you know. Gezani incites his aggressive pedigree Rottweiler dog to attack Derek. Derek shoots and kills the dog. If Gezani instituted delictual action against Derek for the loss of his dog, Derek may rely on the following defenses. Although we have not read much about the ground of justification, it's very much important for you to know that if you incite a dog, remember a dog cannot act in the private defense. It should be acting in the necessity. However, when you incite your dog, the dog becomes a human act. And if you kill a dog, it means that your private defense will be necessary. So in this question, the private defense is necessary and is the one that is applicable to the scenario. So many people may be asking why or why. I will still able to explain to you. So the answer here is a private defense. So let's go to the number 18. Linda asked Jane to look after Jock, a friendly and well-trained Staffordshire Bull Terrier, while Linda is away on vacation. The next day, Jane takes Jock for a walk in the park. Thomas approached Jane, draws a knife, and orders her to hand over her handbag and food. Jack orders Jock to Thomas. Jock responds immediately, but Thomas kills Jock with his knife. Jane flees away, alerts a policeman on patrol, and Thomas is apprehended. When Linda returns from vacation, She instituted a delictual action against Thomas for the loss of her dog. Thomas may rely on the following defenses. So even if Thomas is relying, Thomas is in the wrongful situation and is the one that is mugging. So the person who's in the wrongful situation and the danger is imminent. Therefore, he may be on the ground of justification. However, even if he relies on necessity, he will not be succeeding. Even if he relies on private defense, he won't be successfully. Even if he relies on provocation, he won't be successfully. Because firstly, Thomas was on the wrong situation. Thomas is the one who's mugging, and the dog was to protect the interest, who is Jay. So we have answered that one. We go to number 19. Tebuho asked Mary to look after Uli, a pedigree and well-trained German Shepherd dog, while Tebuho is away on vacation. The next day, Mary takes Uli for a walk in the park. Mary sees William with her ex-boyfriend in the distance. Mary has a grudge against William and orders Uli to attack him. William shoots and kills Uli. Tebuho instituted a delictual action against William for the loss of her dog. William may rely on the following defenses. Because firstly, you must know that Tebuho is looking. I asked Mary to look after Uli. Therefore, Uli belongs to Tebuho, who's the third party. When the third party right is violated, we must invoke necessity. So this was very easier. Necessity is invoked. There's a third party dog that has been killed. So we invoke a capacity. And then they said that grace, okay, because this one we have not talked too much about, the one that one we have not talked about, but we have not talked about that you cannot consent for injuries and all those stuff. So we have talked about all those. And then let me just say that we will continue with this one when we go forward, because this one is different. This one of the privilege official capacity. Now we are in the different. You may not be able to understand. So let's meet next time, guys, when I upload a video. Since you can't pay me to be my student, so you have no choice but just to watch my video. We'll meet next time, guys, when I upload another Delict video. And then start preparing. The examination is around the corner. Thanks.